They ruled by spreading fear, until the death of a human child unleashed chaos. Part 2. The Quiet Before. The day after Ethan died, Haven's Ridge looked the same on the outside. The sun came up. Workers went to the spaceport. Ships took off on time. Children walked to school with their bags, but nothing felt the same. Daniel Brooks did not go to work. He stayed home. He sat in the small kitchen and stared at the empty chair where Ethan used to eat breakfast. Laura stayed in the bedroom. She held Ethan's favorite shirt and rocked back and forth. She did not cry loudly anymore. The tears just fell without sound. People came to the house. Neighbors brought food. Friends stood at the door and said sorry. Daniel nodded each time. He did not speak much. Laura thanked them in a small voice. After a while, no one knew what else to say. In the afternoon, they buried Ethan. They chose a spot on a low hill above the settlement. The ground was soft there, with short grass and wildflowers. A simple wooden marker stood at the head. It said only his name and the years he lived. Ethan Brooks, 2018 to 2026. More than 1,000 people came. They stood in rows. Some wore work clothes, some wore their best. No one spoke during the short service. A man named Paul Evans, who led the local community meetings, said a few words. He talked about how Ethan loved rocks and stars. Then he stopped. There was nothing more to say that day. After the burial, people walked back down the hill in silence. The sky stayed clear. 2 moons would rise later, but the light felt colder now. That night, word of the death moved fast. Settlement radios sent messages to other human towns on the planet. Ships carried the news to nearby systems. People on Earth heard it through private channels. The official news said it was an accident during an inspection. The Krelith report called it necessary action against a threat. But in human homes, on hidden message boards, and in quiet talks, one word spread: murder. Daniel and Laura did not sleep. They sat on the porch and looked at the stars. Daniel spoke first, after many hours. They took him, he said, just like that. Laura nodded. He was running to help. He was only 8. Daniel's hands closed into fists. They did not even look at him. Not really. They sat quiet again. Then Laura said, "We cannot let this happen again." Daniel looked at her. For the first time since the shooting, something hard came into his eyes. "No," he said, "we cannot." The next days passed in a strange calm. On the surface, life went back to normal. Tribute ships loaded metal and fuel. Krelith patrols flew overhead twice a day. Overseers walked the streets and checked papers. People kept their heads down. They looked away. But under that calm, things moved. In small houses and barns, people started to meet. Not big groups, 3 or 4 at a time. They came after dark. They used back doors. They spoke in low voices. In one barn on the edge of town, a group gathered. There was Ryan Carter, a young man who worked on communications at the spaceport. He was 25 and good with machines. Next to him sat Maria Lopez, who ran the supply warehouse. She knew every crate that came in and out. Then came Jake Thompson, a former soldier who now fixed fences, and Kate Wilson, the nurse from the clinic. Ryan brought a small device. It looked like a normal data pad, but he had changed it. "I pulled this from a Krelith relay buoy last month," he said. "They think we cannot break their codes, but I did." He turned on the screen. Lines of data rolled past. "Their empire is big," he said, "but it is thin. They have many worlds to watch. Not enough soldiers. Not enough ships close by. Fear holds it together. If fear stops working, it all falls apart fast." Maria leaned forward. "How many garrisons are on our planet?" 12 main ones," Ryan answered, "plus small posts. About 300 Krelith in total here. We have 10 times that many people who can fight if we ask." Jake rubbed his chin. We have old weapons, from before the Accord, hidden in caves and under floors. Not much, but enough to start. Kate looked around the group. We need more than weapons. We need people who will act, not talk. They made no big plans that night. They just shared facts, locations of Krellith posts, times when patrols changed, weak points in their stations, names of humans who worked too close to the Krellith and might help or might not. The meeting spread, not loud, not fast. One person told two. Those two told others. In other settlements, the same thing happened. On other planets, the same quiet talks started. Daniel did not go to the first meetings. He stayed home. He worked in the yard. He fixed things that did not need fixing. But people came to him. They stood at his gate and waited. One evening, Ryan came. He stood on the porch steps. We need you, Daniel, he said. Daniel looked at the ground. I am not a leader. You do not have to be, Ryan said. You just have to decide. Daniel was quiet a long time. Then he asked, what do we do if we start this? Ryan answered plain. We hit them all at once, hard, before they know what happens. Daniel thought of Ethan's face that day, the blue flash, the fall, the cold words, acceptable collateral. He looked up. Count me in. The next week Daniel went to his first meeting. It was in an old storage shed behind the school. 12 people sat on crates. No lights, just one small lamp. They talked about plans, not dreams. Not revenge speeches. Just steps. Who would cut power lines? Who would take weapons? Who would watch the skies? Who would send the first signal? Daniel listened. Then he spoke. His voice was low but clear. They took everything from me, he said. My boy is gone. My wife cries every night. I will not let them take more. He looked at each face. If we do this, some of us will die, maybe many. But if we do nothing, more children will die, like Ethan. No one argued. They nodded. After that, Daniel helped plan. He knew the spaceport better than most. He knew where ships sat. He knew which ones had fuel. He knew how to move without being seen. Laura did not join the meetings. She stayed home. But she helped in her way. She talked to other mothers. She listened to their anger. She told them it was okay to feel it. Slowly, more women started to help. They watched children so parents could meet. The Krellith saw nothing strange. Their sensors picked up normal traffic. Their overseers walked the streets and saw bowed heads. They sent their reports. Situation stable. Humans remain obedient. But in the dark, lists grew longer. Coordinates were marked. Timers were set. Weapons were cleaned. People practiced moves in empty fields. No one shouted. No one waved flags. No one made promises they could not keep. They just prepared. One night, Daniel stood on the hill where Ethan rested. The moons were up. The settlement lights glowed below. He put a small rock on the grave. It was flat and smooth, the kind Ethan liked. I am sorry, Daniel said. I should have been faster. I should have stopped them. He looked at the stars. But I will stop them now. For you, for all the others. He turned and walked down the hill. His steps were steady. The quiet before the storm grew deeper. The Krellith slept in their towers. They dreamed of more fear, more control. They did not know the storm was already here. It moved in silence. It waited in shadows. It carried the weight of one small grave. And when it broke, nothing would be the same. They ruled by spreading fear, until the death of a human child unleashed chaos. Part 3. The First Night. The attack started at 2 a.m. on every human world at the same time. No warning, no big announcement, just action. On Epsilon Eridani 4, the night was cool and clear. Stars filled the sky. Most people slept. Krellith guards stood at their posts, bored and sure nothing would happen. They had ruled for so long that danger felt far away. At exactly 0200, the first move came. In Haven's Ridge, Ryan Carter sat in a small room above the communications tower. He watched a screen. His fingers moved fast. He sent one short signal. It traveled through hidden wires to every team on the planet. Power lines to the Krellith command spire went dark first. Lights inside the tall black building blinked out. Alarms tried to sound, but found no power. The guards inside grabbed weapons and looked around in confusion. Outside, small teams moved like shadows. Jake Thompson led one group of 8. They carried old rifles from before the Accord, plus a few plasma tools turned into weapons. They reached the main gate of the spire. 2 Krellith soldiers stood there. Jake gave a hand signal. 4 people fired at once. The shots were quiet, silenced rounds. The guards dropped without a sound. The team entered fast. They knew the layout from months of watching. They cleared room by room. Most Krellith were asleep. The ones who woke died before they could shout. In 10 minutes, the ground floor belonged to humans. At the same time, other teams hit smaller posts across the settlement. A warehouse where Krellith stored weapons, a relay station on the hill, a patrol base near the river. Each hit was quick and clean. No big fights, no long battles. Surprise was the weapon. Maria Lopez took a team to the spaceport. She knew every ship parked there. 3 Krellith technicians slept near the control room. Her people tied them up without waking them fully. Then they moved to the fuel depot. They loaded trucks with extra fuel cells. They prepared 2 cargo haulers for quick takeoff. In the school basement, Kate Wilson waited with medical supplies. She had bandages, painkillers, and blood packs ready. A few volunteers stood with her. They expected injuries. They hoped not many. On the hill above town, Daniel Brooks led the main strike on the regional command spire. He carried a rifle he had not touched in years. His face showed no anger, only cold focus. 10 people followed him. They climbed the service stairs on the outside of the building. No elevators, no noise. They reached the top floor where Vraxis 9 lived. The door was locked with a Krellith code. Ryan had given them the override from the stolen data. Daniel punched it in. The door slid open. Vraxis 9 stood in the center of the room. He wore only light armor. His red eyes widened when he saw humans with guns. For the first time in his long life, a Krellith felt real fear. "You will not," he started. Daniel stepped forward. "You killed my son. You called it acceptable." Vraxis 9 raised his claws. "It was protocol. You know." Daniel fired once. The shot hit the Krellith in the chest. Vraxis 9 fell back against the wall. Green blood spread on the floor. He tried to speak again, but only clicks came out. Daniel looked down at him. No more protocols. He turned to his team. "Take him outside. Alive if he still breathes. We need him for the broadcast." They dragged Vraxis 9 down the stairs. He was still alive, gasping. They tied him to a post in the open field where Ethan had died. Lights from handheld beams lit the scene. Ryan set up a simple camera. He linked it to every human channel on the planet, and to the open galactic net. No encryption, no hiding. Daniel stood in front of the camera. Behind him, Vraxis 9 hung from the post. The Krellith's head drooped. "This is Daniel Brooks," he said. His voice was steady. "Today we end the Accord. The Krellith ruled us with fear. They killed my son to teach a lesson. Now we teach one." He looked straight at the camera. "To every human world, rise now. Hit them now. Do not wait. Do not talk. Act." He turned to Vraxis 9. The Krellith tried to lift his head. Daniel raised his rifle. "This is not revenge," Daniel said. "This is justice." He fired. The shot was clean. Vraxis 9's body jerked once and went still. The broadcast cut off. Within minutes, reports came in from other places. On New Athens, a mining colony, Humans took the orbital station in 20 minutes. On Vega 9, dock workers sank 2 Krellith patrol ships with mining explosives. On Earth itself, hidden cells moved against the Overseer compounds in every major city. The Krellith had no time to react. Their communication relays went dark, one by one. Their ships in orbit found weapons turned on them from inside. Crews who refused to fight were locked in holds. The rest surrendered or died. By dawn, Haven's Ridge was free. Krellith bodies lay where they fell. Human teams moved fast to clean up. They burned what needed burning. They saved what could be used: weapons, tech, fuel. Daniel walked back to the hill. He stood at Ethan's grave. The marker looked small in the morning light. He put his hand on the wood. "We did it," he said quietly. "First step." Laura came up behind him. She had not slept. Her eyes were red, but she stood straight. She touched his arm. "More will come," she said. "They will send ships." Daniel nodded. "Let them." Down in the settlement, people gathered in the streets. No cheering. No big celebration. They looked tired but sure. They carried rifles now. They checked maps. They loaded trucks. Ryan walked up to Daniel. "We have 12 captured Krellith ships in dry dock. Small ones, but armed. We can fly them in a week if we work fast." Daniel looked at the sky. "Good. We will need them." Across 17 human worlds, the same scene played out. Garrisons fell. Overseers died or ran. Ships changed hands. The old fear turned into something new. Action. The Krellith High Command, far away in their core systems, got the first broken reports. At first, they thought it was small trouble. Then more came. Then all contact stopped from the frontier sectors. A senior lord clicked in anger. "Impossible. They are weak. They submit." But the screens stayed dark. The fear they had built for centuries cracked in one night. Humans did not stop to rest. They moved supplies. They trained fighters. They planned the next moves. In Haven's Ridge, a young girl named Sophie, one of Ethan's classmates, walked to the grave with a flower. She placed it there. He would be proud, she said to no one. The first night ended. The war had begun. And humanity, pushed too far, answered with fire. They ruled by spreading fear, until the death of a human child unleashed chaos. Part 4. The Reckoning. The Krellith High Command sat in their deep fortress on the homeworld. Thick walls of black stone surrounded them. Screens covered every wall. Lords in heavy armor clicked their claws and watched reports come in. At first, the messages seemed small. A few outposts silent, some ships not answering. They blamed storms or equipment failure. Then the flood started. One lord named Kazath Prime raised a foreleg. Frontier sectors report total loss of control. Human worlds no longer respond to orders. Garrisons destroyed. Ships taken. Another lord hissed, "Impossible. They are broken. They kneel." But the screens showed truth. Red markers spread across the map like blood. Human systems blinked from green to hostile. 30 worlds gone in hours, then 50, then more. Kazath Prime ordered the response. Send the punitive fleet. 30 dreadnoughts. Crush the rebellion. Leave no survivors. The fleet launched that same day. Massive ships, each the size of a small city, jumped through hyperspace. Their weapons could glass planets. Their crews numbered in the thousands. They carried fear itself. They arrived at the Tau Ceti relay point 3 days later. This was the main jump gate to human space. The Krellith expected to find scared ships running or empty space waiting for their arrival. Instead, they found a wall of human vessels. The human fleet looked strange. Cargo haulers with guns welded on, mining ships with reinforced hulls, old colony transports turned into carriers. A few captured Krellith frigates flew among them, repainted with rough human symbols. Nothing matched, nothing looked professional, but there were many, hundreds. The Krelith commander broadcast on open channel, "Return to submission or die." No answer came in words, only action. The human ships moved first. They did not form neat lines. They charged in groups, fast and messy. Small fighters, old shuttles with extra engines, swarmed the lead dreadnought. They fired everything they had, missiles from mining drills, plasma from stolen lances, even chunks of scrap metal launched at high speed. The dreadnought shields held at first. Then a mining ship rammed its side. The impact tore a hole. Atmosphere vented. The human ship exploded on contact. But the hole stayed open. More ships poured fire inside. The Krelith returned fire. Beams cut through human hulls. Ships broke apart. Crews died in silence. But the humans did not stop. When a ship took too much damage, the pilot set the reactor to overload and aimed straight at the enemy. One freighter, named Hope's End, flew straight at the flagship. Its captain, a woman named Emily Grant, sent a final message. For the children. The ship hit the dreadnought's bridge. The explosion lit the relay like a new sun. The flagship broke in half. The battle lasted 9 hours. No side asked for quarter. No side gave it. Human pilots flew until their ships broke. Engineers patched holes in the middle of fire. Gunners kept shooting until guns melted. When ammo ran out, they rammed. When engines failed, they drifted into enemy fire to block shots meant for others. The Krelith fought with order and power, but they had never faced this. Their enemies did not fear death. They welcomed it if it took one more Krelith with them. In the end, 27 dreadnoughts floated as burning wrecks. Twisted metal and frozen bodies drifted in the void. The last 3 ships turned and ran. They limped back to Krelith space with damaged engines and broken crews. They carried the news no one wanted to hear. Humanity had won the first real battle. Word of the defeat spread fast through the Dominion's vassal worlds. Species that had lived under Krelith rule for generations heard the reports. Planets that paid tribute in silence now whispered. Old hatreds woke up. On the world of Zethar, a bird-like people called the Vareen rose first. They had suffered public executions for centuries. Now they stormed the Krelith embassy. They took the officers alive and broadcast their own lessons. No mercy. On Koran Prime, factory workers shut down production. They turned machines into weapons. They marched on the garrison. The Krelith tried to use fear broadcasts. The workers laughed and cut the feeds. One by one, vassal worlds rebelled. Some fought with sticks and stones. Some used hidden weapons. Some just refused to work. The Dominion's supply lines broke. Food ships stopped. Fuel dried up. Fear no longer worked when the feared ones fought back. Back on Epsilon Eridani 4, Daniel Brooks stood on the bridge of a captured Krelith frigate. The ship now flew under human command. Ryan Carter sat at navigation. Jake Thompson ran weapons. Laura Brooks worked in the small medical bay, helping the wounded from the ground fights. Daniel looked at the main screen. It showed the Tau Ceti battle reports. Numbers scrolled. Human losses high, but Krelith losses higher. We hurt them, Ryan said. We started, Daniel answered. They will come again. Bigger. Laura walked onto the bridge. She carried a data pad with casualty lists. Her face looked tired. We lost good people, she said, but they died free. Daniel nodded. He thought of Ethan every day. The boy's face stayed in his mind. It kept him going. A message came in from Earth. The unified government, no longer submissive, sent word. They had taken the Home Overseer compound. The Krelith ambassador was in custody. Earth called for all human fleets to gather at Tau Ceti. They would push forward. Daniel looked at his crew. We go to Tau Ceti. We join the line. The frigate's engines hummed. The ship turned toward the jump point. Other ships followed. A small fleet formed behind them. Not grand, not perfect, but together. On the Krellith homeworld, panic set in. Lords argued in loud cliques. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted total war. Kazath Prime silenced them. "We built this empire on fear," he said. "Fear has failed. Now we fight or we fall." They ordered every remaining ship to the core defenses. They pulled troops from distant worlds. They prepared for the worst. But deep in their minds, a new feeling grew, the same one they had forced on others for centuries. Fear. In Haven's Ridge, Sophie and other children played near Ethan's grave. They left rocks on the marker. Small ones, smooth ones. The kind he liked. A boy named Ben said, "When I grow up, I will fly like Ethan wanted." Sophie nodded. "We all will, and no one will stop us." The reckoning had come. The empire that ruled by spreading fear now faced its own end. Humanity did not fight for glory. They fought because one line had been crossed. One child had died, and that was enough. The galaxy watched. Old powers trembled. New ones rose. The stars no longer belonged to fear. They belonged to those who refused to kneel. They ruled by spreading fear, until the death of a human child unleashed chaos. Part 5. The Ashes of Order. 6 months passed since the first night. The galaxy looked different now. Human fleets moved through space without permission or fear. They flew captured Krellith ships alongside their own patched vessels. They carried weapons taken from fallen dreadnoughts. They flew flags that showed a simple mark, a small rock circle drawn in black. It stood for Ethan Brooks. The Krellith homeworld sat deep in its system. High walls circled the main city. Towers rose like black needles. Once those towers watched over an empire. Now, they watched only their own shrinking borders. Human ships arrived first at the outer edge. Then more came. Thousands. Not in perfect formation. Not shining and new. But steady. They blocked every jump point. No ship entered. On the bridge of the lead human frigate, Daniel Brooks stood quiet. He wore a plain jacket now. No rank. Ryan Carter sat at the controls. Jake Thompson checked weapons. Laura Brooks worked below, helping the wounded from recent fights. The crew moved with purpose. No one spoke loud. A signal came from the planet. The Krellith ruling council wanted to talk. Daniel answered. His face appeared on their screens. Behind him, stars stretched cold and endless. The head of the council, Kazath Prime, spoke first. His voice clicked through the translator. "We offer terms. You take tribute. We keep our system. We end the war." Daniel looked straight at the camera. "No." Kazath Prime tried again. "We will pay reparations. We will leave your worlds. You rule the frontier. We rule the core." Daniel shook his head. "No tribute. No overseers. No rules from you." The Krellith Lord raised his claws. "Then we fight to the last." Daniel's voice stayed calm. "You already lost. Your fleets are gone. Your vassals are free. Your people starve. Fight if you want. It changes nothing." Silence followed. Then Kazath Prime lowered his head. "We surrender." The broadcast went to every human ship. Cheers did not come. People just nodded. They knew the cost. Human teams landed on the homeworld 2 days later. They wore armor, but carried no banners. They walked into the council chamber. Krellith lords stood in rows. Their armor looked dull now. Many showed cracks from old battles. Daniel led the group. He carried no weapon in his hands. He looked at each face. "You ruled by fear," he said. "You killed to teach lessons. You left graves across the stars. One of those graves belonged to my son." He paused. "We will not build a new empire on your bones. We will not send overseers to your cities. We will not demand tribute. Forever. Kazoth Prime clicked softly. Quarantine? Yes, Daniel said. Your ships stay grounded, your weapons stay locked, your borders stay closed. Humans and others will watch. If you break the line, we come back, and we finish it. The council agreed. No choice remained. Human engineers set up monitoring stations around the system. Small drones flew constant patrols. Jump gates got locked with codes only humans held. The Krelith homeworld became a prison of its own making. Their technology stayed. Humans took copies of plans and data. They studied it. They learned. But they did not copy the cruelty. On the vassal worlds, species celebrated in their own ways. The Vereen flew free in their skies again. The Koran workers built machines for themselves. Old colonies reopened trade without fear. New alliances formed, not under one flag, under many. Earth sent word to all human worlds. The submission accord was dead. No central empire rose in its place. Each planet governed itself. They shared knowledge. They shared defense. They remembered. In Haven's Ridge, life returned slowly. The spaceport grew busy again. Ships came and went without black shuttles watching. Children played in the streets. No one looked up in terror. Laura Brooks walked to the hill every morning. She tended the small garden around Ethan's grave. Flowers grew there now, red and yellow ones. She planted them because Ethan liked bright colors. One day, Daniel joined her. He carried a new rock, smooth, flat, perfect for skipping. He placed it with the others. Laura touched his hand. It's quiet now. Daniel nodded. Too quiet sometimes. She looked at the settlement below. Lights glowed warm in windows. People laughed outside. They live because of what we did. Daniel looked at the grave. Because of him. A group of children ran up the hill. She was older now. Almost 10. She carried a box of rocks. We found these by the river, she said. We thought Ethan would like them. Laura smiled for the first time in months. He would. The children placed the rocks carefully. Then they sat around the grave. One boy asked, "Will anyone ever scare us again?" Daniel knelt. Maybe, but we know what to do now. We stand together, we fight back, and we never forget. The boy nodded. Like you did. Daniel stood. He looked at the sky. No shadows moved there anymore. Months turned to years. The galaxy healed in pieces. Trade flowed. Knowledge spread. Stories of the old Dominion became warnings. Parents told children about the day fear died. They spoke of a boy who ran to help, and a species that answered with everything they had. Daniel and Laura stayed in Haven's Ridge. He worked on ships again. She taught school. They lived simple days. But every night, they walked to the hill. They sat by the grave. They talked about Ethan. They talked about the future. One evening, a new ship landed at the spaceport. A small courier from Earth. It carried a message. The Unified Council wanted Daniel to speak at the new assembly. They wanted to honor the start of the change. Daniel read the message. Then he burned it in the yard. Laura watched. "You're not going?" "No," he said. "They don't need speeches. They need to remember why it happened." He looked up. Stars filled the sky. Bright, clear, free. On the hill, the markers stood steady. More rocks covered the base now. Children added them every week. The garden grew wider. Flowers bloomed year-round. A soft wind moved through the grass. Somewhere far away, new ships flew toward new stars. No fear followed them. The Empire of Dread ended not with thunder or grand fleets. It ended because one child died. Because parents buried him. Because a people decided enough was enough. And in the quiet after, the galaxy learned a simple truth. Fear rules until it meets those who have nothing left to lose. Then fear breaks, and something stronger takes its place. They ruled by spreading fear. until the death of a human child unleashed chaos. Part 1. The Shadow of Dominion. The Krellith Dominion ruled most of the galaxy for 800 years. They did not need the biggest armies or the fastest ships to stay in power. They used fear. One Krellith warship in the sky was enough to make any planet give up. They showed killings on every screen. They killed leaders who spoke against them. They left whole worlds empty as warnings. Humans came to space late. 30 years ago, the Krellith came to New Dublin, a human colony. In 6 hours, the colony was gone. No one survived. Earth's leaders saw the truth. They could not win. So they signed the submission accord. Humans agreed to pay tribute every month. They let Krellith ships watch their trade routes. They let Krellith officers live in their cities. In return, the Krellith promised not to destroy Earth. Life went on under the dark shadow. People worked. Ships flew. Children went to school. But everyone knew the rules. Do not speak against the Krellith. Do not look at their officers the wrong way. Do not run when they come near. Fear kept the peace. On the planet Epsilon Eridani 4, there was a small settlement called Haven's Ridge. It sat between green hills and a wide river. The spaceport was small, with only a few landing pads. Most days, cargo ships came and went quietly. Daniel Brooks lived there with his family. He was 34 years old and worked as a mechanic at the spaceport. He fixed engines and landing gear. His hands were always dirty with oil. He liked his job because it kept him busy. His wife, Laura Brooks, was a teacher at the settlement school. She taught reading, math, and basic science to children between 6 and 12 years old. She had kind eyes and a soft voice. The children liked her classes. Their son, Ethan, was 8 years old. He had brown hair that always looked messy. He liked to run around outside and collect interesting rocks. He kept them in a box under his bed. He said one day he would fly cargo ships like his dad's friends. He wanted to see every star. The family lived in a simple house near the edge of the settlement. It had a small yard where Ethan played. On clear days, they could see the 2 moons rise together. One bright afternoon in late spring, everything changed. A Krellith inspection shuttle came down without warning. No one expected it. The ship was long and black, with sharp edges. It landed right in the open field next to the spaceport. Dust flew up and covered the nearby houses. People stopped what they were doing. Workers put down tools. Children ran to look. The settlement administrator, a man named John Carter, walked out to meet the visitors. He tried to look calm. The shuttle door opened. A tall Krellith officer stepped out. His name was Vraxis 9. He looked like a giant insect with hard black armor and many legs. His eyes were red and cold. Behind him came 6 Krellith soldiers with long plasma lances. Vraxis 9 spoke through a translator box. His voice sounded like dry leaves rubbing together. "The tribute this month is too low," he said. "We need more metal and fuel. You will increase it by 30%. Now." John Carter swallowed hard. "Sir, we are already sending everything we can. The mines are slow this season. If we give more, people will go hungry." Vraxis 9 turned his head slowly. "Hunger is better than death. You know our rules." John tried again. "Please, give us 2 more weeks. We will find a way." The Krellith officer made a clicking sound that meant anger. "You ask for time. Time is not given. Examples are given." He waved one claw. 2 soldiers stepped forward. They grabbed John by the arms and pulled him to the center of the field. People stood silent. No one dared speak. Ethan Brooks was playing near the landing field with 2 friends. They were looking for flat stones to skip on the river. When the shuttle landed, the boys ran closer to see. Ethan liked ships. He wanted a better look. The soldiers pushed John to his knees. Vraxis 9 raised his lance to make the example clear. Everyone knew what came next. Ethan saw the crowd. He saw his friend's father on the ground. Without thinking, he ran forward. "Stop!" he shouted. "Don't hurt him." One Krelith soldier turned fast. The rules were simple. Any movement toward an officer was a threat. The soldier did not think. He aimed and fired. A bright blue bolt of plasma hit Ethan in the chest. The boy flew back a few feet and fell hard on the dirt. Smoke came from his shirt. He did not move. The crowd gasped. Laura Brooks, who had come out of the school when she heard the shuttle, saw everything. She screamed and ran toward her son. Daniel was close behind. He had been working on a ship engine when the landing happened. They reached Ethan at the same time. Laura dropped to her knees and held him. His eyes were open, but empty. Blood came from the corner of his mouth. Daniel touched the boy's face. It was already cold. Vraxis 9 looked at the body. "Acceptable collateral," he said through the translator. "The lesson stands." He turned and walked back to the shuttle. The soldiers followed. The door closed. The ship rose into the sky and disappeared. No one moved for a long minute. Then Laura's cry broke the silence. It was a sound full of pain. Daniel sat on the ground and held his son. Tears ran down his face, but he made no sound. People came closer. Some cried. Some stood with tight fists. John Carter, still on his knees, looked at the sky where the shuttle had gone. That night, Haven's Ridge did not sleep. Lights stayed on in every house. People sat together in small groups. They talked in low voices. They remembered Ethan's laugh. They remembered how he ran after butterflies. They remembered the day he brought home the biggest rock he ever found and showed it to everyone. Daniel and Laura sat by Ethan's bed. The boy's things were still there. His rock box, his toy ship models, his drawing of a big cargo hauler. Laura held one of his shirts and cried quietly. Daniel stared at the wall. His hands shook. Outside, the settlement was quiet, but something new moved in the air. It was not loud. It was not angry yet. It was cold and certain. The Krelith had ruled by fear for centuries. They thought fear would always win. They were wrong. One child's death had started something. No speeches, no flags, just a father and mother who lost everything, and a town that saw too much. The shadow was still there, but now, under that shadow, people began to think one simple thought.